Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Criterion 40. I am Joe from Create Context, and today we are talking about the film Sweet Smell of Success. Alexander Mackendrick's Sweet Smell of Success is a classic tale of greed and morality set against the backdrop of a gorgeously shot New York City. The film is influential with its pumping jazz score, incredible performances, and deep themes of manipulation and corruption. It's a movie that many tout as one of the greatest of all times, and I can certainly agree with that. There are some fantastic performances, the dialogue is superb, and the noir-style storytelling is compelling all the way through. Still, upon my rewatch of this, I felt there was something missing from this, and some certain facets that make this whole movie feel like a relic of its time. Sweet Smell of Success released in 1957, right around the end of the Hays Code era of Hollywood filmmaking. The Hays Code was a set of strict guidelines that heavily regulated what could be said and shown during films made in America. This included everything from an outright ban on explicit sex or nudity and profanity to more vague ideas like upholding the ideals of traditional marriage. It was a strict code that many filmmakers tried to work around during the time, but it was a set of rules that ultimately held back American cinema for decades. Sweet Smell of Success is a great film despite the code, but it still holds too many punches. The film follows Sidney Falco, played tremendously here by Tony Curtis. Sidney is a sliming, fast-talking journalist who appears to have burned every last bridge he had in New York City. The movie begins with his articles being sidelined, and he kind of just runs into various people across the city who all seem to have some type of major beef with him. It's here at his lowest, though, where he finds a way out. He makes a deal with J.J. Hensinger, a powerful newspaper columnist, to foil a relationship between Hensinger's sister and a jazz musician named Steve Dallas. This plan is executed properly by all accounts, but Sidney is forced to complete some despicable acts in the process. At one point in the film, he sets up a sexual rendezvous with a fellow writer named Otis and a young cigarette girl named Rita. He's essentially pimping out Rita, treating her like nothing more than a stepping stone on his quest for power. The implications of everything that are happening, that's clear, but they are just that. Implications. The movie never goes really deep into the rendezvous. It never makes anything explicit. And even when it starts happening, when we understand what's going on, the movie always feels like we're just a layer back from the actual despicable acts. This scene with Rita and Otis is impactful, but it also feels underwhelming because of this. The entire exchange where Sidney tries to convince Rita to sleep with Otis is all dialogue that hinges on innuendos and double entendres. This is done clearly to avoid violating the Hays Code, but it leaves the pivotal scene without the gravitas it needs to drive that point home. The entire film, Sweet Smell of Success, is filled with these sneaky ways to try and honor the Hays Code while similarly pushing the boundaries of that same code. By the 1960s, especially the late 60s, the Hays Code would be all but dead. But in the interim, we have a lot of films like this one, movies that were made for adult audiences without the ability to show adult content. Sweet Smell of Success isn't a bad movie, not by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a worse movie because of the Hays Code. It's also a movie that brought to light the banality of these self-imposed rules. Hollywood and audiences were changing, and there isn't a greater example of that than the career of this film's star, Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis was a relatively popular actor before Sweet Smell of Success, but not one that was taken too seriously. He was primarily cast as the handsome lead or adventuring hero. Curtis starred in several westerns and adventure films as the likable hero who would often get the girl. He was charming and likable on screen, but every character he played was rather one note. With Sweet Smell of Success, Curtis almost overnight changed his image, going from a pretty boy hero to a serious actor who could play a character with loose morals and a quick tongue. His performance here is stellar, but it was still only as edgy as the Hays Code would allow. Sweet Smell of Success is a film that pushed boundaries. It's an incredible story and one that was shot with technical mastery. Some scenes, like the film's climax in J.G. Hunsecker's apartment or any scene in a jazz club, are brimming with personality, and they all point towards the film's main theme. There is clearly a ton of artistry going on with this movie, but it always feels that it's pulling a few too many of its punches. The dialogue is fast and witty, but it holds back from being biting and offensive. The themes of corruption and power are softened by the innuendos everyone's throwing around, and the women in the film often feel like a victim of the time and the industry just as much as they are a victim of the men around them. Susan, JJ's sister, is the propelling force in the film, but her character is treated as either a naive little girl or a hysterical woman. She does have a redemption at the end, but this beat feels less about her character and more about a consequence that we had to put on JJ. None of these issues, though, can really be used against Sweet Smell of Success. This film did the best it could to portray despicable characters, even if they couldn't show despicable acts on screen. What the film did more than anything was prove that the Hays Code was outdated and that audiences wanted something more. This film pioneered cinema towards the films we would start to see in the late 60s and 70s. In a time when the Hays Code was abolished, directors had the freedom to create films with powerful images that matched the mature themes they were trying to portray. Sweet Smell of Success is a fantastic film on its own, but its real importance lies in the era it propelled American cinema towards. Thank you guys so much for watching the Criterion 40. If you like this, please give a subscribe. That would be super cool, and I'll see you next time. The Criterion 40 is a Create Context podcast. Head over to createcontext.com for more film, reviews, and analysis. Our theme song is Hindsight by Shiloh, provided by the Riot Games Creator Safe playlist. We drop new episodes every Tuesday at 8 a.m.